Hey guys, it's Cho, and I'm back with Office Hours with Cho. We're gonna ignore the fact that my face is just doing crazy things right now. We're gonna just go with it um, because I am in the middle of testing some products and testing a routine out. I've got thoughts on that, but you will hear all about them later on. For now, just know that my face has been going through the gigs. I've been combating acne and irritation like crazy. Like, it is a whole thing. I just got out of the shower, so this is my bare face. This is just face, like raw face here. As you can see, this is raw face. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go grab some some acne patches real quick. That's what I'm gonna do, to be honest with you. Okay. Because what we got going on here is a bit too much. Not sponsored, but Starface has my favorite acne patches, mostly because they're cute. They also are effective at like keeping environmental factors away from the acne and also from just like soothing and healing and kind of speeding up that healing process. So I love Starface, and again, they're cute, they're kawaii. But yeah, this is my raw face. Um, she's dry. She feels dry. Yeah, she feels dry. So I've got a topic I want to talk about today that's been sitting on my heart, sitting on my heart. Um, but we'll do my routine first, which is literally two products. It's the Mandelic Pigmentation Corrector Night Serum by Allies of Skin. Has 11% mandelic acid, which I'm in love with mandelic acid these days. Salicylic acid, bakuchiol, has 8 brighteners, 7 antioxidants, and peptides. It's kind of the vibe. It's kind of my vibe these days. But we're gonna use this. Um. Oh, hey, the real Ghostbuster. You did not show up last Sunday. That's okay. I still love you. But you didn't show up last Sunday. I know it was an irregular stream. People got to go to school the next day. People got to go to work the next day. I get it. I get it. But your energy was definitely missed. Okay? Your energy was missed. Okay? Welcome back. Hope you're doing well. How was your Thanksgiving? Like I told you guys last week, don't forget your neck. Your neck and your hands are how they will clock your age every time, okay? It's the first thing to go. First thing to go, okay? Your hands and your neck are the first to go. I'm also going to, let me add this moisturizer next. It's fine, thanks, good. Yeah, welcome back. I've missed you, and I'm glad you're here again. Um, I went shortless. What does shortless mean? Now I'm gonna add a little bit of, not a little, I'm gonna add a lot actually of the Alice Skin peptides and antioxidants firming daily treatment. This is a very light moisturizer. The reason I'm gonna add so many pumps is because my skin is very dehydrated and dry, and it needs a lot more. It needs a lot more moisturizing capabilities, and this does not really give what I need it to give. Okay, so we're gonna add this. We're really gonna just go in with this moisturizer with 5 dots. 3 for the face and 2 for the neck. Okay? And to be honest, even that is not enough for my face at nighttime. Be honest with you guys, it's not enough for my skin at nighttime. I really think this moisturizer shines during the daytime. That is where this moisturizer shines. Because of all of the antioxidants and how it helps to combat and supplement your sunscreen and your protection against different environmental factors as well as the sun. I will recommend this with vitamin C and a sunscreen, and you've got a powerhouse morning routine. You're back in Moses Lake again. It's like I had my swim meet last weekend. Now I have another one. I just did the first part of it. I have a second part tomorrow. Good luck. Hopefully your swimming has been successful. Hopefully you've been doing well. So I think I'm gonna just stop there with the face, but because my neck has a little bit of irritation, I have this really massive bump on my neck. I'm gonna just kind of use the Fortify oil by Stratia to kind of add some more nourishment for my neck because I think I really need it. It just adds a little bit more oomph to it all. How have you been doing with your swimming? Okay, we can add my glasses back again. Okay. Um, okay. We can put the robe back on. Sorry for being so naked, but I just got out of the shower. So it is what it is. Okay, and now let's get the lips together. Finishing touches. We love a juicy lip, honey. We do love a juicy lip. Look at that lip. Look at that juicy lip. Now, the last thing we're going to do before we start this live, we're going to put my pimple patches on because I have pimples. Okay? Like I said, this is the Starface Hydro Star Pimple Patches. These are just simply hydrocolloid patches that work to mostly soothe the irritation that you are facing with acne. And then also, one of the worst things that can happen is you can face further irritation by simply existing. And so what this does, what this patch does, is it serves as an occlusive that will prevent your acne from really interacting with other environmental factors, thus speeding up the healing process. So we're gonna just we're gonna count to 3. I mean no, 20. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I see. I need to just put a fucking patch on my forehead because my forehead has like lost its mind. My forehead has literally lost its mind. Now, I will say that even when I get acne, I'm having an acne, like a full on acne outbreak right now. Even when I get a full on acne outbreak, because I've been doing and indulging in skincare for so long, my skin still looks generally good, relatively good, because I have a really great foundation based off of the years of taking care of my skin. So I can look good. And this might be like a humble brag here, but I can look good and decent even with acne because my skin has a general vibrancy about it to begin with. And so the acne, sometimes you gotta remember that like acne, even when you are meticulous about your routine, even when you do everything right, you can still get acne outbreaks. For someone like me who's acne prone, that's just something you have to kind of deal with for the rest of your life, and that is okay. So acne is not like the end of the world. It's annoying. It's very annoying, but I still feel like I'm cute. So whatever. I'm gonna do that right there. Okay. Okay, sorry. That was not English. Okay. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I really need a pimple, like a legitimate patch for my entire fucking forehead because it's literally my entire fucking forehead that has acne right now. And after I put this on, we're gonna rant a little bit about end of life stuff. Cause I let me just put this on, and then I'll get into it. Um, okay, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay. Um, so let's just get right into it tonight. As always, these are your office hours. So we really can't talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. Hey, Kit, welcome to the live. This space is for you guys to ask whatever questions you have for me. Any topic, whatever you want to talk about, I'm down to talk about it. But I did come prepared with a topic tonight for once, and it's because I just got done talking about this topic with a very dear friend of mine. And I happened to see a story earlier today about Franklin's estate and how her children, two of her sons, um, just had a breakthrough in the law with receiving one of her homes, and the other guy received another part of her home. Anyway, they've been embroiled in a dispute, a legal dispute about their mother's wealthy, very wealthy estate. And it got me thinking about my new passion about ensuring and empowering people to enter those end of life stages with dignity and confidence and patience and trust. Um, I think that when our loved ones pass away, it is already one of the most traumatic things you can experience in life. Losing someone that you are totally in love with and that supports you and loves you, it's traumatic to lose that person. And so when you think about estate planning or figuring out who's going to get the house, who's going to get the car, who's going to get the $15,000 of worth of savings, those things are things you don't want to have to think about while grieving the loss of a parent or a grandparent. Like the last thing you want to think about as you're crying your eyes out and you can barely get out of bed because your loved one that you've known all your life is now dead, the last thing you want to think about is, well, where the fuck or who gets the car? Do you know what I mean? Like, no one wants to think about that. And so, the best way, and this is going to sound really obvious here, let me turn this up. But the best way to prevent this type of stress from happening is by having a will and or trust. And I recommend that everyone get a trust. Okay, because they're just more legally sound than just a will. But we'll get into that in a moment. Okay. So again, let's talk about the pros and cons. Okay, number one, of course, just being prepared. Like having to think about these things when you're stressed out and when you're grieving and when you're not of sound mind is not a good thing. I feel like this is especially important for those with siblings. Okay, if there are siblings involved or marriages involved, then this gets really complicated really quickly. Okay. Um, so one of the questions someone was asking me was, "Well, Cho, how do I approach this with my mom? My mom. I know this is a very touchy subject, and I don't want to feel, weird or pushy or anything like that. And I think that you have to approach it in two different ways. Number one, let's talk about the emotional approach of talking about end of life or estate planning with a loved one. And I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna talk to you guys about it from the perspective of a child to a parent, okay? Because that's what I have the most experience in dealing with. I've also talked about this with my partner and figuring out his estate planning because he's an older gentleman, well, middle-aged gentleman. So I've talked about that with him, but I feel like I've done the most work when it comes to my grandparents, and I won't get into all of the dirty details with my own personal drama because I keep that for Patreon, which if you guys have not subscribed to, check the description box below and check out my Patreon. I do tarot readings there. There's a litany of perks and benefits. Just go check it out and tell me what you guys think. But anyway, I won't get into all the grimy details. I save that for my vlogs on Patreon. But I have been forced to really tackle this subject material before I was planning to do so. And it was very traumatic for me, and it was very shocking and scary and emotional and just really gut wrenching dealing with this situation myself in my own personal life. And so it really made me feel impassioned to really help others to deal with it as well. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna put my phone on. Um, so yeah, so I was thrust into learning about estate planning. I was not prepared, but here I am. Okay, and I feel like I've now done this with three different estate plannings, and I feel like I feel somewhat proficient at it. I'm not an expert by no means. I definitely recommend that you contact a lawyer. That's step number one. Okay, well, step number two. But okay, so like I was saying before, how do you approach a parent about this subject material? Number one, approach it from an emotional standpoint. Let your loved one, let your mom or your dad know, listen, mom, we all are going to die at one point or another. And I know that there are things that you are planning to leave to particular members of the family. Whether that's me or not, it doesn't matter because it's not my stuff to give away. However, I want you to understand that having to decipher what you want after you have passed away will only compound the grief and the depression that we are experiencing during your passing. Okay? So, again, trying to figure out who receives the family home after someone's dead is a nightmare. Because if it comes down to he said, she said, like, oh, well, mom said I'm going to get the house, but mom said that she was going to give me the house. It becomes this he said, she said shit. And guess what happens when there's no will and no trust? It goes to probate court, okay? It goes to the government, and the government is then given the power to divvy up what happens, okay? You don't want this, okay? Under no circumstance do you want to give the government an ounce of control when it comes to the things you have built. Don't even get me started. You guys know that I'm very anti government in general. I'm a capitalist, I'm a free thinker. I have very, very libertarian views on a lot of different things when it comes to society and business and politics. And so you guys know that I think taxation is fucking theft because it is. It is. Okay, it's the biggest theft in the world. Now, when you and they already steal enough. Okay, I'm gonna try not to rant, but the government already steals enough of our money. What you don't want to do is give them the opportunity to take more of your hard earned assets. Okay? When you give the government the opportunity to divvy things up, you give up total control. And why give up control of your assets when you have the ability to tell what happens to them? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so, again, number one, stress to your parents, hey, I just want you to understand that if I'm going to be someone that's involved with your assets after your death, it's going to be stressful for me to not know how to deal with it during the grieving process. Okay, that's an easy thing to sell because no parent wants to see their children suffer. No parent wants to see their children fight amongst each other, and I think that's an easy way to open up the dialogue. Okay, number two, and this is the kicker. This is important, and the way you phrase this to your parent or loved one is very very important, and how you approach this conversation. So, number two is remind your parents that they have worked hard their entire lives. This is a little bit of a kiss up type of thing, but it's also true. Whatever your parents have, they've worked for it, they've earned it, and it is their right to do with it as they please. And remind them that if this house, for let's say your parent is dying, they have a house, and let's say they worked all their lives and they picked up pennies from under the couch to pay for the down payment and to pay that mortgage off for 40 years, 30 years. This is important stuff to families, and this is where generational wealth comes into major play. And I think that you should remind your parents of how proud you are of them for all of their accomplishments in their lives. And I think that you should encourage them that you want to carry on their legacy and you want them to in their legacy be able to move their assets where they want them. If for example they have a child that they really want to give the family home to, maybe, and I'll speak from personal experience. In my family, we have a family house, really big house, beautiful house, expensive house. And we want it to stay in the family. That is their dying wish, is for this house to stay in the family. And so remind them, well, listen, if this is your goal to keep this house within the family, then you need to do X, Y, and Z in order to accomplish that. And I'm willing to help you to accomplish that goal by one, contacting a lawyer. Number two, getting a will and or trust to ensure that what happens to the house happens to the house. No matter what anyone thinks, if you do it the legal way, there's almost no way for it to be broken. So, again, those are the two different ways that I would approach a parent. Number one, listen, mom, I don't want to deal with your shit that you're leaving behind while you're dying. Okay? That's like an obvious thing. And your parent would also not want you to be dealing with that while they're dying. Okay? Um, and number two, you want to ensure and carry out their goals and their wants and wishes with their property that they have earned. Okay? And I think that there's a little bit of pride that comes along with accomplishments. If people have earned certain things, maybe it's even just cars, maybe it's just money, maybe it's jewelry, maybe it's really important heirlooms. You guys know that really gigantic, I don't even know how many fucking carats that ring is, but it's like a $5,000 diamond ring, and well, it may be $7,000. I don't know. Anyway, TMI. But I have an heirloom that was given to me by my grandfather, and that was really important for him to give to me, and it's something that was actually in his will. Cho will receive one of these X amount of rings. And so that was in the will, and that was something that could not be taken from me. It was owed to me. Legally, it was owed to me. And so, again, these personal possessions that they want to pass on, I think they have a right to pass them on to those people that they want. And in a lot of situations, people are taken advantage of. People fight over shit. People steal shit. And it's just like they end up in court for years and years and years, just fighting and fighting and fighting. And it's just like all of this could have been prevented had people simply had a will. Like it's not even that complicated, to be honest. And so that's what makes it so frustrating for me to see in society these days, is that wills and estate planning is not complicated. Like, it's not a complicated process. It does not require a lot of thought for the majority of parties. It really just requires the thought of the person who owns the property and the possessions and the assets. And so, and it's more like emotional thinking, like, oh my God, who do I want to own this diamond ring? You know, that's the only hard part. But in terms of logistics, there are no logistical hoops that you have to go through in order to do a will and a trust. So it's so frustrating to see families torn apart, fighting amongst themselves over things that could have been easily prevented with a will and or trust. What else can I say about this topic that's really important? I think that it's kind of similar to prenups, which I'm also a major, major, major fan of. I think that the best time to talk about a prenup or a will slash trust is when you're happy, when you're of sound mind, when you are not sick, and when you like each other. Okay? Does it make sense? Like, why would you why would you want to discuss something like where a house is going to when your mom has dementia? Like, shouldn't you talk about that before they get really old and before they're not of sound mind? You know what I mean? When life is at its worst, when you're aging rapidly and on the verge of death, oh, now you want to talk about where the house is going to go? Well, you should have talked about that 15 years ago. Again, the procrastination only it only it only kicks the can down the road. But as you keep going down that road, you're gonna meet the can. Okay? Like, you're gonna, like, you can kick the can down the road all you want, but at some point you're gonna catch up with that can. And I feel like it's a better approach to address this issue of estate planning while your loved one is thinking clearly, while there are people that can allow effective communication. Because also, when Alzheimer's and dementia gets its claws into your family members, it can also make, abuse something that's apparent. Sometimes loved ones can be taken advantage of by particular family members. But when you already have a will in place and a trust in place, it can kind of circumvent some of that criminal or manipulative behavior by family members. Um, so, I again, I'll save a lot of this for Patreon videos, but I have a grandparent that is not doing well physically or mentally. And it's difficult now to discuss updates to her estate planning. And I only can take solace in knowing that I've already done the hard work of getting that estate planning kind of fine tuned already. And so a lot of things are already set in motion and set in place, so that there doesn't have to be too much fine tuning to begin with. I mean, there's always things that maybe you could fine tune a little bit better or change, but again, when dementia starts to take its hold on a person, it just becomes more difficult. When someone is struggling physically, the last thing they want to do is again talk about finances or legal matters. It just makes things more difficult. So again, I really, really implore you to talk about these things with your family members when they're of healthy mind and body. Okay? Don't do it when they have diabetes, when they have cancer, when they have a procedure every 3 months. Do these things when they are capable to physically and mentally indulge in these conversations. Um, and again, the only reason why I stress this is because I've just seen so much carnage in families. I've seen so much carnage. I really have. I've seen so much destitution, and I've just seen so much nastiness from the lack of planning and from the procrastination of taking care of your business. Um, and again, I just think that the people that are in ownership of these possessions and assets, they deserve they deserve their possessions to be treated with respect and intentionality and care. They deserve it. And so to me, it's almost, I've taken the role of being of service to my family members and to my partner by making sure that things are going to go the way that they want them to go. Um, so I feel very honored that I've looking back. I mean, at the time, I was just very stressed out. I was like, why the fuck do I have to deal with this shit now? Like, I'm only X amount of years old. This is not fair. Oh my god, why didn't they do this shit before? Why it's stuck on me? But now I feel like it's a work of service almost to be able to help people to get their estate planning in order. Because again, aging and inching closer to death, inching closer to death is a complicated thing to do. And if I'm able and if you're able to help someone manage that experience a little bit better through estate planning, I think that's just incredible. I think it's an incredible service of your loved one. So, no one's even here, and that's fine. But I wish that people were here to ask questions because I'm sure I know 100% that I'm missing out on key information that I think people would be interested in knowing my experience on when it comes to estate planning. Um, and of course, these lives are never like really organized or planned. So I didn't come with a PowerPoint presentation ready to go on estate planning 101. Um, well, let me start here. I guess I can start with a little thing, the difference between a will and a trust, because those are different things. And I recommend that you have a trust. And typically, a will is a part of a trust. A trust is like an organization of sorts. So let's talk about the will first. So a will is basically like your last testament. It is something. It's a document. It's a legal document that can be done informally or formally. But I recommend formal. Okay, we're talking about the law here. We're talking about the government. Do things formally. Okay, because when you do things informally, sometimes there's a gray area and you don't want to be on the wrong side of poor judgment or human error. Okay, when you do things formally, there's less chance of that happening. And again, a will in a trust is all about ensuring with confidence that things are going to go the direction that the owner of the estate wants it to go. Okay, so I always recommend that you can start things informally, but that you inch closer or have the goal of making it something that is going to be formal, like legally with a lawyer, attorney, all that jazz, notary, all that shit. Okay. So a will is a legal document that basically tells the world and the court system what you want to be done with your possessions, with your estate. Now, your estate can be things like your house, your car, your savings account, your checking account, your stocks, your brokerage account, your retirement account. Retirement accounts usually are a big part of estate planning because these are things that you are taking and withdrawing from in your older age when you're dying. And so, your retirement accounts, your pensions, basically all the shit that you own, all your possessions, that's what your will is testifying to. Okay. What do you want to be done? Now, let's say that you drop a will and then you croak 2 days later. Okay. What will happen is your loved ones, if you have a wife, it'll go to the wife first. The wife or husband will take your will. take it to probate court, and the court will then advise you on how to divvy up the things that was listed in the will. They will interpret what was meant by different things, and I definitely don't recommend that you do. I recommend that you get a trust, and we'll talk about that soon. But that's what a will is. It just clearly it hopefully it clearly explains what you want to be done with your possessions. Okay. Now, what is a trust? Now, a trust is a legal organization that entails your will and typically a lot of other things. Okay. Now, when I say organization, usually this is comprised of a trustee. Now, the trustee is the person that will actually carry out all of the things listed in your estate planning, in your documents, in your will. So let's say that my dad passes away, he has an estate planning, he has properties and all this shit going on, and he lists me as the trustee. And in the will, he doesn't say, I'm going to leave Cho the house. He actually says, I'm going to leave the house to my wife. Well, I, as the trustee, would be in charge of making sure that the wife gets the house, okay? Because I'm the one legally binded, okay? Now, when it comes to trustees, when it comes to these trusts, the trustee legally must abide and follow through with um, what is written down in the estate planning. If they do not do this, it's a fucking federal crime. Literally. It's also a state crime, but it's definitely, I think it's a federal crime too. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a lawyer. Consult your lawyers, but it's definitely a high offense to intentionally or willingly not follow or abide by a trust, a will, etc., if you are a trustee. And so it's in the name. You're supposed to be trustworthy. Okay. So, for example, you know what? I'm gonna clock my family for a second. I'm gonna clock my family. If you're watching, get the fuck over it, because you greedy bastards were wrong for this. Okay. But I just want to give you guys a real life example of how shit goes left because of people's greed. So, my great grandfather, um, very successful man, very honorable man, worked extremely hard, had a really excellent work ethic, had a great mentality, was an awesome Christian, someone to be revered, someone to be looked up to. Well, he knew his fucking children, okay? And so he left his estate planning, and when he passed away, he wanted his children, his litter of children, because he had a whole bunch of them. He wanted his children to receive income, um, but he didn't want it to be a large lump sum. Okay, he wanted it to be dispersed. You receive, and I don't know all of the fine details, but I do know the gist of this situation. Instead of it being like one large lump sum of like $15,000, he wanted the $15,000, and I'm making up numbers here. It wasn't 15,000. I don't know the number, but I'm just using a number. Okay, he wanted the $15,000 to be divvied up. You know, $5,000 year one, $5,000 year two, $5,000 year three. Now the reason he did this is because he knows his fucking children, and he knows that some of his children will blow through a large lump sum of money. It doesn't take a genius to know that, statistically speaking, people that receive large lump sums of cash typically burn through them quickly because they're not used to having that large amount of cash. And you see this all the time in lots of different situations. Specifically, you see this with when it comes to refund checks every year with taxes. Statistically speaking, when refund checks come, and that's a large lump sum of money, people usually spend it on discretionary spending. So places like Best Buy or clothing stores or things that are not really necessities, these companies tend to blow up in terms of profit because everyone's buying a brand new TV, everyone's buying a brand new outfit. People are really mismanaging their money and spending it quickly because that hole in their pocket is burning up with cash. So, my grandfather, my great grandfather, he knew fucking better because he's a smart ass man. Okay. Now, his wife was the trustee of his estate planning. So she was the one responsible for ensuring that everything was handled exactly as the trust explained. Now, some of my grandfather's children was upset at the wife. Well, I want my money right now. Why can't you give me all my money right now? Because they had, financial difficulties. They were shitty managers of their finances. So there came moments where they needed all of the money. Well, my grandmother, the wife, basically said, no, I'm not giving you all the money. And the children, well, how dare you? Why would you? Why did you? How could you? This is my money. It's not your money. Well, bitch, I'm the trustee. And this is not what your father wanted. This is your father's money that he's given you under certain circumstances. And so that created a huge conflict within the family because certain children wanted to, not abide by the trust, by their own father's wishes. They want to go against their father's wishes. And so I think that's why it's important to have a trust. Because if this was just a will, it'd be a different story. There's a lot more opportunity to not abide by the wishes of the deceased. And so, again, a trust is it's a lot more secure because only one person or a couple of people, it depends on how you organize your trust. Um, Only a handful of people have the actual control to make sure that things are carried out as the deceased would have it. And so naming a quality trustee, someone with a backbone, someone that's not going to be bullied, someone that's going to do the right thing, that's imperative when it comes to estate planning. Um, so yeah, that was a nasty example, and I hated the way they treated my grandmother, my great grandmother, because she's as sweet as pie, and she's like literally an angel on earth. Okay, and these brats, these fucking brats, my aunts and uncles, just fucking demons. I mean, honestly, truly. Anyway, um, so where was I going with that? So yeah, so another part of a trust, and we didn't talk about this because people don't understand that power of attorneys are also very, very important. And this is a part of estate planning as well. As you age, as you get sick, as you get disease, you can enter a state where, um, you just don't have the mental capabilities of making sound decisions. And that is where power of attorneys come in place, okay? Now, a power of attorney is someone that you designate to make decisions on your behalf, okay? This is while you're living, so you're still living at this point. But this is a person that you have bestowed the power to make decisions for you. Now, there's two different types. You have a power of attorney, a medical power of attorney, and you have a financial power of attorney. Let's talk about medical power of attorney because this is going to be the most simple one. So, a medical power of attorney is someone that is able to make medical decisions for you with your doctor. Okay. So, let's say that my dad has designated me as the medical power of attorney for his state, for his body. Okay. Let's say that my dad is on a ventilator, going through the gigs. He can't talk. He can't breathe. He's on the ventilator, like he's breathing through a tube, and they want to know: should we pull the tube? Should we do no? Let's say that should we do this procedure or not do this risky procedure? Well, obviously, my dad can't really communicate that effectively. So, as his medical power of attorney, they will then come to Joe and say, "Hey, what are we going to do for your father? You are his medical power of attorney." They wouldn't go to the wife; they would go to me since I'm the designated power of attorney for his medical. Okay. However, let's say at the same time, you know, his business is getting ready to like make a decision on something, or he has to sign off on some really important business deal, or some check that he has to deposit, or some payment that he has to give someone. He can't do that because he's on a ventilator right now. Well, his wife, who he designated as his financial power of attorney, would then have the power to make those financial decisions for him at that time. Same thing goes with like paying bills, just like paying bills on a timely basis. Your financial power of attorney will have the power to make those critical financial decisions while the person is living but unable to make those decisions on their own. Now, again, when it comes to medical power of attorney, um, when it comes to end of life, there is a specific document that details what a person would like to happen in case of life threatening care, or not life threatening care, in case of, what do they call it in the documents, in case you are being held together with the power of, being on life support, basically. Like, you're a machine being plugged in, it's keeping you alive. You unplug the machine, you're dead. That's what we're kind of talking about with this document. There is a document specifically addressing what happens, like if you want to be left on a ventilator, or if you just want to be to die naturally. There is a document that details that. However, your medical power of attorney still will have final say if you don't have that. They will get to decide, well, listen, we're going to keep him on life support as long as possible, because the medical power of attorney gets to decide that. Or they can decide, we're going to pull the plug. Um, Now, the thing with the financial power of attorney is, um, there is a clause where it allows a person to still make these financial decisions, regardless of whether you are of sound mind or not. So it allows them to write checks, to access financial documents, financial information, your bank account, stuff like that. Basically, it's a very trustworthy person that you think is going to make decisions in your best interest. So, even more important than your trustee of the estate is who you designate as the power of attorneys, because this person, whether medically or financially, ultimately is going to be able to make decisions on your behalf legally. And so that can be the same person, different person, but regardless, it needs to be someone that you really trust. That's good to know, though. Sometimes people aren't told about all these things. I know. And the sad thing, Kit, is people usually learn about these things when their loved one has died, when it's too late. Learning about these things when it's too late is beyond traumatic. It's beyond traumatic. And I don't wish it upon my worst enemy, because you're already dealing with the grief of losing, of learning the legal system and learning how to traverse traps and pit holes, and it's just not a fun time. And I've experienced it myself. I've experienced it myself, and it was very traumatic. And I'll never be bamboozled again and be unprepared for the inevitable, because remember, we're all gonna die. Spoiler alert. I don't mean to spoil you, but we're all gonna die. Okay? If you didn't know that, now you know. We were born to die. So, get your estate planning together. Kit, since you're here, do you have any questions about estate planning? Anything that comes to mind? Anything that you are wondering about? Um, Anything that you find hard to understand about wills and trusts and all this, because it's a lot. It is a lot to take in, and I get that. And that's why I always recommend that you approach this topic with your parent or your loved one and say, listen, if you're not comfortable talking to me about it, then I want you to at least go talk to a lawyer about it. Okay? Approach it in the way of like, this is not for my benefit, it's for your benefit and for you to feel comfortable going to bed at night. Okay? So that's what I do. But if you have any questions specifically, I would be interested in knowing what you think. I know most of it by now. I think more like debt being passed on to you from their death is that a thing. It is a thing. It is a thing. Yes, it is. And so again, it's really important to um it's really important to figure out how we're going to manage this stuff. If you don't have life insurance is a wonderful thing because typically life insurance is designed to kind of handle a lot of that stuff. You pay life insurance every month, 15, 25, $50, something like that every month. And then when the person passes away, you get $50,000. That $50,000, and I'm just making numbers here, but that 50K is then used to handle debt, handle funeral, handle this, handle that. And that's what life insurance is all about. And I definitely recommend that everyone get life insurance, okay? I don't know how people are not getting life insurance, but like that is paramount, especially for someone that, is getting older, has children, dependents. If you have dependents, if you have children, you need to have life insurance policy because in case of a tragic event of death, accidental, or, just sickness, you want to be able to take care of your family, especially if you don't have a nest egg. I almost feel like life insurance is one of the um, best ways to protect yourself against severe financial issues, especially if you're already poor or on the lower socioeconomic status. It's one of the best ways to prevent devastation, financial devastation from death. Yes, sadly, me and Ryan don't have any, and we really should. He kind of feels it will curse us into something. Oh, he's being silly. He's being silly. I'm gonna stop you right now, kid. Ryan, I'm usually Team Ryan. I'm usually Team Ryan. Team Ryan. Team Ryan. Team Ryan. Cho is Team Ryan, but on that's stupid. I'm sorry. I want him to picture right now. What does he think happens? Let's say right now that he gets into a car accident tomorrow. No, now. And I know it's uncomfortable to think about these things. It's uncomfortable, but this is reality. And we are all so very close to death. When you think about statistically how many car accidents happen every day in your fucking neighborhood, how many people are getting into car accidents and dying in your neighborhood? Look it up. And when you understand that it doesn't take you making a mistake to get into a car accident, someone else can make a mistake. You could do everything right, and you could be dead. Now I know this is morbid. I know, this is morbid, but I'm here to inject some reality into your life today because 2 and 3 years ago, life, like reality, was injected into my life, and I was forced to deal with this shit. Okay, I didn't want to deal with it. Listen, I was like you. I didn't want to deal with this shit. But 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was forced to, and it was not fucking fun. So I get really passionate about this stuff because I don't want people to feel the way I felt. I felt like the world was crushing me. And all while I was in the middle of grief. Again, I was in the middle of grief while managing this stuff. And it was traumatic. It was just fucking traumatic. So I want Ryan to imagine, let's say if he dies tonight in a car accident, what does Kit's life look like? This is an exercise I want you guys to do. What happens? I want him to think like logistically what happens. Are you able to stay in the house that you're in currently? Does his belongings go to his parents? 'Cause if you're not married and if it's not written down, probate court might say, well, all of Ryan's belongings go to the parents. Now, whether you have a great relationship with the parents or not, this is up to the government. And I'm sure Ryan doesn't want his belongings to be decided by a probate court in the government. I think he wants to decide what happens to his shit. That's just a hunch on my end. I just think I mean, I'm gonna just be blunt. It's fucking foolish. It's just foolish. What do you mean a curse? He's gonna fucking die. I mean, there is no curse. The fact that he's a human being is a curse. We're all gonna die. What do you? I mean, what? That doesn't make any sense. Whether you die today or you die in 20 years, you're going to die. And so, it's a matter of procrastination. You just don't want to do it, but like, you need to do it. You know what I mean? Like, that rationale doesn't make sense. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. And that makes it something that people don't want to do. It is uncomfortable talking about these things, but it's necessary because again, it may be. Oh my god, I'm not gonna rip this off. It may be uncomfortable now to talk about. It's even more uncomfortable to talk about this after he's dead or while he has a tube in his mouth in the hospital. So you have to kind of, in this case, you've got to pick your poison. Do you talk about this uncomfortable situation now while you're healthy and in love and like of sound mind? Or you talk about this poison when you're sick or dead? Because it's going to be one of those two. I mean, so I mean, I don't know how he communicates, but I would say it just like that. Pick your poison. Talk about it now when it's uncomfortable, or talk about it when either you're dead or you're sick and it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable regardless of when you talk about it. Do you know what I mean? But even with the dogs, they're old as hell, and I had to do research of all like what shots cost at home, put down, etc. Cremation because I think he couldn't bear. I mean, I'm the same way. It's terrible. It's terrible to think about. It's terrible. He thinks it's jinx him once he signs it. I mean, it's silly. I mean, it's silly. It's very silly. Hopefully, some sense you can talk some sense into him because that's very silly. And again, if Ryan passed away right now, I think he would want you to be taken care of. And I think he would not want you to have to stress over what to do with his assets. I mean, does he want you to stress out if he were to pass away? And same with you. Would you want Ryan to stress out after you pass away and not know what to do with all your shit, or to have to like, heaven forbid, fight with your mom over your shit? Would you want that to happen? I don't think so. But if you do, then hell, don't do nothing about it. I mean, you hear about this stuff all the time. You hear about this shit all the time in the news. Children are fighting with each other right now in the news today. This I read it today. Aretha Franklin. They're in a legal battle right now over her belongings because she didn't take care of her fucking business. It's terrible. It's terrible. You can't even grieve in peace because you're too busy fighting over shit. It's terrible. It's terrible, honestly, truly. Um, but I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. It's very uncomfortable to talk about, but it's uncomfortable no matter when you talk about it. It's uncomfortable no matter when you talk about it. So, you know, you gotta talk about it. You gotta talk about it. Um, any other thoughts? You have any other thoughts about this, kid? And I know people think like, oh, we don't have much of anything. We don't have a lot of money, but like, there's still so many things that you can take into consideration. Personal items that mean a lot to you guys. What happens to those personal items? What happens to those things? I know some. Listen, I know someone who this is gonna sound fucked up, but I know someone who didn't didn't do a will or estate planning, had a bunch of children. The children had all these things that they wanted from the father, and the father promised them that he's gonna give them all these things, and you know, um, not like very expensive things, but just like very sentimental things, like, oh, I'm gonna give you like this football that we used to play when you were a young child, or like this item or that item, or my lucky shoe, or shit like that. It was a bunch of shit like that. You know what the wife did when the husband passed away? The wife sold it all in an estate sale. Sold it all. Children didn't get shit. You know how devastating that is? You know how devastating that is? And why did that happen? Why did that happen? Because the father did not set up any estate planning. And then probate court was like, oh, it belongs to the wife. Fuck the children. It belongs to the wife. And so the wife got to do what she wanted to do with it. And she sold it all. Crazy shit. That shit happens all the time. All the time. Do not let probate court decide where your shit goes when you die. Mm-mm. Don't do it. Don't do it. You trust the government? Ask Ryan that. Ask Ryan if he trusts the government. And if he says no, then tell him he needs to do his estate planning then and get his will together. Yeah. That's what he needs to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If he trusts the government, then fine. Don't write a will. The government will take care of it, honey. They'll take care of it like they take care of everything else. They'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. They'll take care of it. It's that simple. It's that simple. Yeah. Um. Either you trust the government to divvy up your belongings, or you don't. And if you don't, take care of that shit. My mom's boyfriend's mom died last year. She was an SSI, and I guess she owned a house. And when she died, the SSI tried to come take the house because they claimed, oh, I mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm. And everyone, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. SSI tried to come and take the house. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It happens all the time. All the time. You give the government an inch, they're going to take a mile every time. Every time. Every time. That's one thing you can depend on. Okay? It's one thing you can depend on. They want more. Of course they did. Absolutely. Absolutely they did. It's terrible. And that's, again, there's a lot of different ways you can approach this topic with your family members, but I respond to, their relationship with the government, their relationship with you, and their relationship with like logic and their pride and legacy. And so, I just don't want anyone to ever experience what I experience having to help my family with estate planning because it was not fun. It was not fun. It was it was fucking traumatic for me. It's a terrible time. I remember I was standing in a Kinko's. No one knows what Kinko's is. Kinko's is like a FedEx, back like an old school FedEx. You could go and ship stuff. You could go print stuff. Well, you're old like me, kid, so you may know what a Kinko's is. But I was in the middle of Kinko's, and I was just crying in the middle of Kinko's, and people were like rubbing my back, like strangers. I was in tears in the middle of a Kinko's. Fucking mess. Dealing with this shit. It was a mess. It was a mess. I can laugh about it. I can laugh about it now, but I was literally in the middle of Kinko's in a crowded Kinko's. It was like five people there, five other customers. I'm in the middle of the place crying, sobbing, sobbing. It was just a mess. It was just a mess. Um, but mom, they got smart, just ripped up letters and pretended they didn't get them and moved the deed over to. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, okay, so that's even more important that once you start having these conversations, you can plan. You can plan ahead and make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's because it's essential. It's very essential. Um, and the whole debt thing, I mean, passing debts on, leaving debt with family members. Listen, the people want their fucking money, okay? So you really got to look into that shit with a lawyer. I mean, the people want their money, okay? Like the mortgage, they're gonna get their money. They're gonna get their money on the house, okay? Regardless, they don't give a fuck about who died, okay? Big problem. Sorry for your loss. Who can we send the bill to now? So, these are really important conversations. And the longer you procrastinate and put them off, the harder the conversation becomes. It's just the truth. Absolutely. They will. Absolutely. People are not taught this, and people don't learn about it until they're forced to. But by the time you're forced to, your mind's all fucked up. Your mind's all fucked up because you're grieving. You're distraught. You're emotionally distraught. So you're not in the right frame of mind to make any good decisions. You aren't. And they take advantage of that. They take advantage of that. They take advantage of your fears. They take advantage of like you losing your support system. They take advantage of all of that. It's terrible. Terrible. Get your wolf together. There's a website. Um I want to link it in the chat. Um and it's a really helpful site. Mama Bear Legal Forms. Let me get it in the chat for you guys. But this is a really great document that will teach you guys a little bit about um, some of these important things that we discussed, like power of attorneys and wills and all this stuff. And I highly recommend it as a starting point. Now, again, I definitely recommend you get a lawyer, but everyone can't afford a lawyer. Okay, and I get that. And so, lawyers cost time. Now, I will tell you, I'll be transparent. Um, for my partner's stuff, I think we paid about $500, about 500 bucks for everything. Okay, and it was great. And that's a great deal. Okay, I knew the guy. You guys know how me. I get things because I know people. Okay, um, but if it's something that you cannot afford, there are documents that you can pay for online on the very cheap that are legal, and I think that Mama Bear Legal Forms is an excellent first start, at least when it comes to researching. Not sponsored by them or anything like that, but I feel like this is a great starting point. Um, for anyone looking to protect themselves in case of the inevitable, you know? So I will try to post this in the description box of this video as well if you're not here live. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's all I gotta say today. And I think we're gonna just end the stream. I think we're gonna just leave it there. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section and I will come back and I will answer them. So, um, I'm really passionate about this thing because I don't want anyone to feel the way I did in the middle of Kinko's. I was at a very, very low point in my life because of what I thought was happening with a near death experience of a family member, and it was just a lot of shit. I think I should talk about it on my on Patreon. I may do that after this. Actually, I may do that. Um, but yeah, comment down below, like this video. Thank you to everyone that hung out during the live. I hope that this is valuable for you guys. I know again it's uncomfortable, but it's very important. It's inevitable. We were born to die, and it's either you deal with the poison today or you deal with a lot of poison later on. So it's your decision. And I just implore you to make the right one for you and your family. Think about you and your family, and think about the future, and think about the trauma that happens when you don't take care of your business in this regards. Think about the carnage that occurs within family dynamics when this shit's not taken care of. And even when it is taken care of, there's still issues that can happen. Like I described the drama with my family, with my grandfather and his children. You know, um, it can still be tumultuous. So with that, guys, we're gonna end the stream. Thank you so much, and I will chat with you guys soon.